Hello and welcome to the One Time Podcast. My name is Miriam and I'm the host here. I love to talk about time management, productivity, mindset work, and mindfulness because I know and experience that the combination of the three can help us get more done of the things that matter most while staying sane and happy. And I particularly like to focus on applying these techniques to the life of PhDs. Having been a PhD myself for a while, this topic is very close to my heart. For today's episode, I invited Alda for a conversation. Alda is a PhD coach herself, and she helps struggling PhDs putting all the pieces together and submitting their thesis. So if you feel you are in the middle of a mess, then Alda is definitely the person you want to contact and work with. For today's episode, we are speaking about supervision, and because we want to help you get a better grasp and a better relationship with your supervisor, because it's the most important relationship during your PhD. And today we are focusing on the two extremes of supervisors. We are talking about the absent supervisor. So when you feel like you see your supervisor maybe like once a year and they're very hard to take hold of, you feel very much alone in the decisions that you gotta make. And then we have the other extreme of a supervisor who is kind of trying to micromanage you and control every step that you take, every decision that you make, and you feel like I need to fit into this little box, and it feels very hard and very small and very uncomfortable. So we are talking about how can you better deal with these two extremes and find your way, your confidence in managing that journey. And this episode is not just for PhDs who are right in the middle of their journey. This is also for you if you are thinking about applying for a PhD position, because it will help you choose a good supervisor and get a better grasp or a better prediction of how the relationship with your supervisor might be, so that you don't end up in a lab where you don't feel comfortable and with a supervisor you don't feel like you can connect with and that you cannot talk to easily. So we're going to talk about some red flags and some green lights that will help you choose a supervisor that's a match for you. All right, without letting you wait any longer, let's dive into today's episode. Reflect, take notes, and see what you want to try at the end of this episode. Have fun listening, and let's start.
My name is Alda. I am a biophysicist and also a coach for PhD students. So I basically teach them how to navigate all of the PhD, those things that you have to do, how to manage the tasks, how to get the writing done, how to talk to their supervisors, how to make sure that they can stay on top of it. And it's very interesting that you mentioned the two extremes, because I guess that it's a very common thing that happens. You either have people who have absent supervisors, or you have those who have micromanagers or people that are always there breathing down their neck,
Yeah.
And I guess both of those categories have the same problem, which is how am I supposed to do what is expected? So I guess that's a little bit of why am I doing what I'm doing, because whether you fall on either sides of those extremes, it's, the question is the same, like, what the hell is happening with my research?
Yeah. And how do I fit in to this without putting myself in a mold that I don't want to be in? Or
Exactly.
It's not like finding the perfect answer, but then forgetting about, okay, who am I in this? Like becoming this person that we aren't anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because I feel that it's not only like an academic issue. It's like a personal development issue, because you have you're in this limbo between who I am and who I want to be. And you are still not the person you want to be, or you're still not there, and yet you have a criteria because you are a scientist already. So it's very weird. How do you conciliate those two realities?
Mhm.
How do you find your voice and your scientific signature in this, in this process,
Mhm.
which is time consuming, it's intellectually consuming. It can drain you really if you are not standing on your feet, and especially if you have a supervisor who is making you self-conscious or who is directly not there. It can be very, very complicated.
Yeah, I guess maybe before we dive into that, maybe you can share your own PhD story with us a bit, and
Of
why
course.
you are helping other PhDs.
Of
now.
course. So during my PhD, I always had this feeling that science per se wasn't the thing that I was really into.
Mhm.
I like science. I love science, like what science can give us. But I do not really like the entire procedure, like the institution around it,
Mhm.
whether it's publishing or it's academia. Like there are many things that just I didn't feel that I could fit into it. And actually, the favorite part of my PhD was me working as a teaching assistant. I
Yeah.
really, really, really loved that part. I loved working with my students. And it's also when I was sort of searching for what's next after the PhD, I really wanted to dive into this thing. Like, okay, I really like teaching. What is it about teaching that I like? And I understood that what I like is actually structuring the topic, writing about it, teaching other people how to make it understandable. So, like dissecting it. This is what I liked it.
Mhm.
This is what I liked. So I said, okay, how can I incorporate that? What I feel that is my superpower, that is something that I can give back to academia or the world, into something that can be a job. So slowly I started working, helping people to write grants and so on. And sort of, it kind of started from there. It snowballed from there. Then when I gained a little bit more of confidence that this can really be a job, I started working with PhDs, and now I focus on PhDs. I help them navigate this entire process, something that I feel that I can really teach them something, because the most important thing is to not walk alone if you are feeling down and you feel that you do not belong and so on. So this is sort of my role.
Okay, that sounds very organic and nice that you found your role and your road and all of that. And who are the PhDs that come to you? Like I guess they're very different, but if maybe there's
Yes,
something that you can see that they have in common.
that's the thing that surprised me, because I thought that I would like attract people who are maybe in the late stages of the PhD, writing their thesis, or maybe feeling lost in their project, but somehow people who already know that they have, that they are searching for that solution. Like, I don't know what my project is about. Can you help me figure out the mess that I have in my head? But also, what I noticed that this is not the only category that really reaches out to me. I have many, many PhDs who just started out, who are writing their proposals and so on.
Okay.
So I noticed that this sort of, I don't know what I'm doing, it's like
Yeah.
a common theme that happens across every stage of the
Yeah.
PhD. I
And I
thought
think life.
yeah, in life especially, but with the
Uh-huh.
PhD it's different, because supposed to you're supposed to know the things,
Mhm.
and yet you have this self-consciousness of, okay, but who am I to tell someone more senior how things work? And then you
Mhm.
have this layer of complexity that is academia as a system per se, that has many drawbacks, I mean many advantages, but also many drawbacks. So I was expecting people from late stages of the PhD, like third, fourth, fifth year, but I am surprised that there are people from first, second year also reaching out to me, and which is
Okay.
good news. As soon as you as soon
Yeah.
as you decide to clean up your mess, the better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they might. I'm sure they will save themselves a lot of stress by coming to you early, right?
Yeah, of course, because at least you have you have a plan, and then you have time to execute it. You do not have It's not motivated by panic. It's
Yes.
more motivated by, okay, I really want to make a difference. So
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
these two different kinds of motivations. I mean, there's nothing wrong with
No. No.
being motivated by panic. I
No.
was that person. Like the deadline, the clock is ticking, you have to get things
Yeah.
done. But I think it's more enjoyable when you're motivated not only by panic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's also something that I saw. I mean, there's all these PhDs walking towards the end. And I could see that it gets more and more stressful towards the end. So I was like, okay, I take this as a warning. And instead of just following and just experiencing the same in the end, I'm like, okay, what can I learn from this now that I'm still like not there yet? But there's no right or wrong, as you say, and we all make our own experience.
Yeah, and there are many also circumstances. I mean,
Yeah.
different things, people changing supervisors for
Yes.
whatever
Yeah.
reason, or moving, I don't know, family reasons, or
Yeah.
whatever happens. I mean, life happens, you know,
Exactly.
it's not just a PhD. At the end of the day, it's your job. So
Yeah.
there are things happening around you that are not job related. So it makes sense to some extent. But yeah, walking towards the end and feeling that low key panic, it's not the way to go. I think so. This is, you know, what both of us are doing. Like the entire purpose of it is for us to show other people that it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't have to be that way. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Thanks for sharing your enthusiasm. I think I can really feel your passion for that topic.
Of course.
And today we wanted to focus on supervision, which is like a main big area or a big impacting factor in the life of any PhD, right? The kind of supervisor that one has and the person that one wants to or has to deal with. And if we go like in maybe chronological order, if someone's listening that are maybe not in the PhD yet, what is the importance of a supervisor, like understanding their role? And if I get the chance, what can I do to choose one wisely? Do you have an advice on that?
Wow, that's a really really big topic, but I will just give my completely honest opinion. I
Yeah.
think that the supervisor is the most important factor that determines whether your PhD is going to be an enjoyable experience or something that you will want to forget.
Hmm.
And I'm telling this from really a lot of experience talking to many clients, to many peers, that I mean, it's really the most important factor. To that extent, that I would even say that if you have to choose between a supervisor that is nicer, answers emails, doesn't disappear, has actually the time and means to support you during your PhD, and a more interesting topic, I would always go for the supervisor. And this is something that I advise everyone basically, because it's the factor that is going to determine how many opportunities you will have, how many papers you will publish. It's not only that, but without a supportive supervisor, it's going to be really, really hard.
Mm. And how can I get a feeling for that at the beginning? Because it can be so hard. We have one interview, we meet them for half an hour, we exchange 2 emails, we say yes, we move abroad.
Yeah.
So is there any signs that you see or that you know?
Yeah. So what I always suggest is to get to know the person, because at the end of the day, it's a work relationship, but it really can overpour into your private life if you do not choose wisely, especially since I mean, there are many mental health issues as well. You know, it's your boss at the end of the day, so you want to choose wisely. The thing that I always suggest is, of course, we have like 1 or 2 interviews. You meet them, you move abroad, as you said, you change you put your life upside
Yeah.
down, and then you realize it's not, you know, Prince Perfect or Princess Perfect on the other
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
Especially when you're young and the only thing you care is about the impact of your science and so on. So the advice that I have is to, if you are not able to spend more time with them, maybe meet them at conferences or, you know, this kind of opportunities to talk to them and see a little bit how they treat other people, because that's basically what you want to know. The advice that I always give is to talk to their past students. So you can always find, there is always an like alumni page in which you can find at least 4 or 5 people who already graduated with that professor, or you can even talk to them, you can email them. And from my experience, people are really, really open to sharing their experiences. And the best thing is that if they had a traumatic experience, they are more likely to answer to you. So what happens because they're like, okay, I want to warn people who are coming next, and especially people who had some not so pleasant experiences. So my advice is always to find the alumni page, find 4 or 5 people, contact them, talk to them, ask them if they have 15 minutes to hop on Zoom, Google Meet, and talk to them for a few minutes about their experiences, their research, how was the paper writing situation, how was the supervision, whether the supervisor was present, absent, whether they are micromanaging, how much funding they have, which is an important thing. So those are all questions that I think you should be aware once you're stepping into the PhD. I was not aware. So I have to say that this is me speaking like after I'm done, because I sort of entered my PhD in 2020. So during the pandemics, it was really, really hard. It was a time of like big uncertainty. So I was also, saying yes to a job at the end of the day, because I was freshly graduated, so I didn't really know what would happen. But this is not the way to go. I don't think people should do that. I think you should do your research. And I mean, I was lucky to some extent, but I think you should do your research and talk to people who already did the PhD there.
I think that is also for me such a difficult gap to close, because anyone who finishes their master's, getting the information that you're sharing right now it's kind of so hard to get it to them. Like, at least that is what I feel, because I also went into my PhD like you did, more or less, right? I mean, I met them in person before. I was also lucky, so I have to say that I was really lucky. But yeah, it could have also been completely different, because like you, I packed my suitcase, I moved abroad, and I just trusted the thing.
Exactly. And I mean, especially after you hear all of those horror stories, like the amount of supervisor horror stories that I hear on a weekly basis is astonishing. Like from things like I cannot even tell you the stuff that I hear. I mean, from peers as well. We all know that PI who micromanages, or that supervisor who is not there for their student, or so it's a very important message. To get into it with the full knowledge of what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, what's the plan, how much funding they have, whether they are able to fund your position for 4, 5, 6 years, depending on your discipline, and so on. So that's the most important thing. And the supervisor is like the most important, the pillar of your PhD. So choose wisely.
Now we are stepping a bit further into the process, and now we're speaking to someone who has their PhD position already. Supervisor fixed, there's not much they can do. How can we handle these situations? Like if we, for example, say one end of the spectrum, absent supervisor. What is the advice that you can give to someone who feels like their supervisor is on another planet?
Yeah. So that's I think this is the good part of the spectrum. Like both of them are not great, but I feel that it's easier to work when you have an absent supervisor than when you have a micromanager, for example, in the day-to-day, even though it doesn't feel that way when you're into the situation. But from my experience working with people, I feel that this is like the least worst, I would say.
Yeah.
But when you're in that situation, I guess that you feel, the thing that I feel and I see with my clients is that there is this feeling of, okay, my PhD is basically self-coaching. I'm walking around with blindfolded, without direction, without map. I'm just trying to figure out, in the middle of the desert, trying to figure out where the water is. And it can feel that way. So the good thing about that is that you have the freedom to really guide your research in the way you want. And you should leverage that, because I mean, if those are the cards that have been given to you, you should leverage the situation and say, and own it. If this is what it is, then I'm going to really step up my game and guide myself throughout that. And the good news is that PhD students are very resilient. They are very stubborn. So they typically end up in a good position. The thing that you should always be aware of is that your work is the only thing that you have. So you do not have your supervisor because they are not there, but you have to have your work up to date, which means that it cannot, if your supervisor is not guiding you, you have to be the person who is guiding you. So that means that you have to have a plan, you have to have deadlines, self-imposed deadlines, you have to have this structure that gives you peace. Because when we cannot source peace of mind from a structure that is given from the outside, we have to create it on the inside. And the best way to create it is to know, okay, I'm working on those 3 projects. I'm planning to finish project 1 by the end of the month, project 2 by the end of the semester, and project 3 next year. So this is the thing that we are really craving. When we crave guidance, this is what we are craving: safety, security, structure, and so on. So once you give yourself all of that, it becomes much easier because you know where your documents are, you know where your files are, you know how your work is structured, and it gives you, you can source confidence from that.
Yes.
So that's like my idea of how to be your own supervisor. What do you think?
Yeah, being basically like teacher and student in in the same person. Yeah. And I think I can also relate to that even more now that and maybe you as well, now that I'm running my own business. I'm also student and teacher at the same time. I'm figuring it out as I go. But having the structures, like you mentioned, like I know where my things are. I have my frameworks. I have my routines. Yeah, my time management systems, or however we want to call them or frame them. And they are like my safety net. That I provide myself.
Yeah. That's the thing, because when everything falls apart, the only thing you can rely on is yourself. So you should do that. And the way to do that is to have this routine in place, the frameworks in place. Maybe we are speaking in a very abstract way, but when I say frameworks or routines, what I'm really meaning is, this map, I'm going to do this, and this is how I'm going to do it. So just answering those 2 questions is actually going to give you a lot of peace of mind. So that's the entire goal. And you can then expand on it in whichever way you want, And of course that sometimes you don't have the answers, but when you don't have the answers, you just have to commit to a decision.
Yeah.
And that, because when you feel this, sort of, I don't know what I'm doing and so on, it's usually the source of it. It's usually because you're not making a decision. And so just make the decision. And even if it's not the right hypothesis, I mean, this is science.
That's science. Yeah,
so that's how it works. At least you will learn something. It can be frustrating. Of course, now I'm speaking from the other side because I already, I went through it. I did my therapy. I did the thing, So now I'm speaking sort of, it will, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But really, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's for real.
Yeah. As you say, it can sound a bit abstract, but I think as soon as one gets like a little handle on it and spends just a little bit of time on reflecting, planning, getting the bird's eye perspective, and being like, okay, what would I advise myself if I was the supervisor or whichever figure one is missing?
And you have to know that you are entitled to make that decision, because if there is no one there for you, then you are the one who has to take care of yourself, basically, because it's like no one is going to protect you when your supervisor is on another planet, as you said.
No, exactly. And then we spoke about the supervisor that is basically absent or on another planet. And if we then go to the other extreme, which you from experience think is actually more difficult to deal with, and that is the micromanaging supervisor, or the one that has maybe a very concrete idea, and then it can feel like, okay, he or she has an idea, and except for telling me what it is, I kind of need to figure out, and I kind of always get it wrong. At least that is something that I sometimes hear. People have the feeling that this is what they're trying to figure out.
Yeah, I think this is much more complex because you're dealing with the personality issue, personality trait, When someone is a micromanager, of course, we can go into why someone is the way they are. But, we are not going to find the answer to that because at the end of the day, we do not care. What we want is to get this thing done as soon as possible and forget it ever happened. basically this is what many clients tell me, I just want it to be done so that I can close this chapter and forget it ever happened. The other day I was just talking to a person about that, and they told me, I just want it done and that's it. So when you are dealing with a micromanager, the best thing that I found, I think that there is one thing that I found that works best is giving them options in a way that you are not there. For example, if you are in a meeting with your supervisor who is a micromanager, and then of course they are telling you, you did this wrong and this wrong and this wrong and it doesn't work and we are behind and you have to work faster and better, whatever. The good thing is give them options to say, okay, do you want me for next week to focus on this or on that? And I'm not saying to get it in writing because it's not a contract, but maybe you can have like a spreadsheet or something. This is something that worked very well for a client of mine, to have a spreadsheet of tasks that are going to happen from week to week. So she would go into the meeting with the supervisor and she would say, okay, do you want me to focus on this part? I was thinking about doing this and that. What do you think is more urgent? Option A. And then they would agree on option A, and she would write it down. And after the meeting, she would send to the supervisor what are the things that are going to happen between one week and the other. And I think it's a very good thing, if you only have a problem with the micromanager and not with the bad person, when you're dealing with a person that is not nice, then they are basically offended by your existence, by your breathing, and so on. But again, it's not your problem. And I think that the best thing you can do is to really stand up for yourself and, face the bully if that's the case. So let them know that you are not the weakest team member and they should go and find another victim. So as harsh as it sounds, because typically when you're dealing with this kind of supervisors, they are very dominant, they are very, sometimes narcissistic. So it's very, very hard to win the battle. But sometimes if you just step out of the battle and just say, okay, look, this is what's going to happen next week and this is what we can agree on. I think that's the best way to go. It's not easy, definitely not easy, much harder than the absent supervisor version, but I think that there is a way out of it. And from my experience, this is typically the one.
Yeah, I think that's good points that you mentioned. Like, one thing is they might not even be aware of it, that they are micromanaging, as you say. It's not necessarily a bad person if we can call someone like that, right? And then giving them option and actually making them aware of, okay, these are the things that we said we would do. This is impossible. What do you want me to focus on? And I think here it also helps actually what we said about the absent supervisor. If we have an idea of, okay, this is my time, this is my task, this is how I can allocate it, and these are the trade-offs. If I'm focusing on B instead of A, then this is causing a delay. I could show you this on my schedule or something, like making it more tangible.
Yeah, it's all about making it tangible, because as long as everything is an abstract idea, it's not going to happen. So this circles back to what we were saying before, like having this structure in place that is actually going to do the heavy lifting for you. So I would definitely suggest that. That's why it's very important to have a time management system, a structure in place on what you are expecting from your PhD, from your thesis defense, from your proposal. So you can upscale it and downscale it to whatever you want, basically, once you have it in place and once you learn how you can optimize your time, your energy. That's a win-win situation, really, in both cases, like in any case, whether you have an absent, present supervisor, micromanager, whatever.
Yeah, because I mean, even the supervisor might learn from it, and they're like, okay, with this PhD, somehow it's easier because they have this idea of options, and then maybe it will spill over to other PhDs that they might.
Yeah, but it also empowers you, because when you have the tools and when you know what you're doing, it's much easier to do the task. And when it's not an abstract task of, oh, I'm going to, I don't know, write the proposal or for that conference. No. I'm going to write the proposal for that conference on Monday from 3 to 4.
Yeah.
And it's going to consist of 4 sections. Section 1 is going to be this, section 2 is going to be this, and section 3 is going to be this. That's a much specific task. And you are much more likely to actually do it and fulfill it. Whereas instead of just saying, oh, on Monday, I have to write my proposal next week. Like, yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's in that sense, when it comes to self-management, it's also a bit about helping our brain to overcome like this inertia. Like if the brain has an idea of what it is supposed to do, then it's easier for it to like get started and like, okay, we're gonna write on this, but for how long and how much energy is it gonna cost? And but if there's like a framework like you described, then the brain can be more, okay, we can do this.
Yeah, which is very hard to do if you think about it, especially if you know that there is a person who is like a superior who is going to judge no matter what you're doing. But you can sort of find a little bit of peace into that, because if everything that I do is going to be judged anyway, I might as well just do something, you know?
Yeah.
So there is this bit of how do I meet the expectation? And there is also this layer of typically people who are doing the PhD are overachievers, people who did very well at school, and now they're facing a problem that doesn't have a solution, which is very, very, complex for our brain to understand. Like all of a sudden you were the best in something, and now you do not even know what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's also very, very a very hard thing to navigate. That's why what's going to be the tool to get you through it is structure, system, and organization, basically.
Yeah, and also speaking of expectations, like you mentioned, do you have any advice on how to manage expectations? Maybe own expectations, but also maybe more clear expectations that come from the supervisor, but also more vague expectations, like how is a PhD supposed to be? How is an academic or a scientist supposed to be?
Yeah, well, that's such a hard question. And I think it doesn't have a very simple answer. So let's go generally first. So when we think about what a scientist is supposed to be, I think especially maybe because we are both women, so like how does a female scientist look like? For me, that was a quite difficult concept to understand because objectively you do not have that many examples. In my department, out of the I think 8 or 9 PIs, there was one woman. So I mean, you have the reality, no matter what everyone will say, like you have the reality that in a department typically you have 1 or 2 people you can really look up to. Or if we go even more general, if you think like, what is the PI that I would like to be one day? It's probably no one, because they all have their problems and they are all different people, So it doesn't have to be. I think there is this error in searching for a role model, or this is what I want to be. Like this is how I would want to be the PI, just as my PI was. Like I don't think this is a very good way to understand. To like work your career upstairs, because it's not, it's not authentic. So I think it's a good way to expose yourself to as many leadership styles as possible, and then get the best out of all of those people, out of all of those styles that are actually, and create your own out of that. So I would say this is the expectation. Like the expectation is, am I doing better than I was doing yesterday? It sounds like a cliche, but I think it's the only way. After you go full circle and you go from denial to grief to therapy to whatever to, you end up into this cliche phrases that are, you are competing with yourself. And I know that someone listening, maybe in their second year, is like, I don't even know what I'm doing. But it's okay to not know what you're doing. I think the first thing is to just realize and accept the unknown. Accept that you don't know. And it's normal that you don't know, because the life is complex. The world is complex. Science is complex. And you're trying to give yourself some credit because you're trying to find an answer to a question. And it's something completely new. Like no one else has done it before in a way you're doing it. So it's supposed to be hard. And it's okay that it's hard. Just accept that. I think it's much harder to accept that if you were always excellent at things and now you're failing. And it's part of science. You have to fail because that's how you learn. So I think this would be the thing that I would advise. Like, accept the fact that you don't know anything. That it doesn't mean that you're stupid. Like, detach yourself from it. It's not impersonal. Like, science is not, it's not something against you and everyone is smart and you're stupid. Like, everyone, I can guarantee, no matter how put together PhD students look, no matter how successful they seem, they all have one thing in common, which is this question of, I don't even know what I'm doing. And so I think it's the best strategy is to just embrace that it's normal to not know. And then slowly you're just saying, okay, out of this uncertainty, is there one thing that I'm certain today about? And then say, yeah, I'm certain about that I need to get that proposal done. So let's do that. And this is going to give you the momentum to really do the creative thinking about your research.
Yeah, nice. I think, yeah, you said maybe it sounds cliche, but getting clarity, okay, what are the expectations that I actually want to meet? Because if we're trying to meet everyone's expectations, then they might even be contradicting, right? So, okay, what is my expectations of my tomorrow and my next week and my next year? And do I feel like I'm on a right trajectory to being more towards my own expectations? But yeah, knowing the own expectations, as you said, can also be just really difficult and takes exposure and experimentation and trial and error.
Trial and error, and it's a part of a learning process, I would say that it's even a part of becoming an adult, knowing that because there is this kind of, specifically since PhD students are typically young people, so you are realizing how much your brain can stretch, which is amazing to me. I think that there are some things that I did in my PhD that I was like, oh, but like, how did I even think about that? Like surprising myself. Oh, look at you. You're not that stupid after all, So I think there is this process of knowing that you don't know things, and that's the fun of it. So just embracing it, and you're not constantly being judged. So I think that it's important to not make it personal and to know that no one cares about you. So it's liberating, No one cares about your research. No one cares about your data. The only person who probably not even your supervisor. I mean, they might care, but probably they do not care as much as they care about their own thing or whatever. So just relax into that. I think I found it very relaxing, that thought of, no one cares, actually. So I might as well go as slow as I need.
Yeah. No one is watching us. We think.
Yeah, no one is watching. Like, no one cares.
They're all
about our data.
Yeah.
Imagine about our experiment. Come on.
Yeah.
People are actually self-absorbed. They are not, thinking about us. They're thinking about themselves. You do you.
Yeah. How did you find your own expectations? Like, can you bring us on your own journey a bit? How did you find out what your expectations of yourself were?
Yeah. Wow. That's like also almost, a personal development thing. Like, how do you find how do you know when it's enough? I think that's the thing. And the good thing about academia, I mean, it's a bad thing, but it's also a good thing sometimes, is that it has deadlines. You have to submit the paper by the end of, I don't know, the year. You need to answer to the reviewers by the end of the week or by the end of the day, like they take 3 months to answer, and then you're like, okay, give us an answer until next Friday. So the good thing is that when you have those deadlines, it gives you sort of a framework within which you can work. So, of course, if we go more general and think about when is enough, in science, there is always another question that can be asked. There is always another answer that you can search for. But it's important to know when your cycle closes, like what you are looking for. You are looking for understanding this specific thing, and it's very, very specific. So it's already complicated enough. So if you're overly ambitious, it can really backfire. So I think when I started the other day, I was reading my proposal for my PhD. and I had my proposal and my thesis. And those two things seem that they belong to two different universes. It's like another dimension. I cannot even, because I was writing about what am I going to do, and I thought I really wanted to do all of that.
Yeah.
But then when you start with just one thing, you realize that it's not you knew that it would be complex, but it's even more complex. And then you answer another question, and another question appears, and another question appears. So I would say that your cue to stop is when you have this need of answering more. That's your cue to stop. It's your cue to stop, actually. When you have this, okay, but the low-key panic mode, oh, but we need to do this and that and that and that, that's your cue to stop. That means probably you already have more than enough. And it's just what your expectations are and what you thought your research would look like and what your research actually looks like. I think that's the acceptance that needs to happen. Okay? I thought I would find the cure for cancer. I mean, it's more complex than that,
Yeah.
We all have a dream, but when you go into it, you realize that every tumor is a world on its own, for example, or every, there are many specific things when we start to research. So I think that when you have this urgency to answer more and more questions, probably it means that you already have done enough.
Okay, that's actually really nice advice. I was certainly in that position when I thought we needed to do another test and another.
And this can be very difficult to navigate if you do not have someone who is actually helping you. Someone like an authority who is saying enough. All of a sudden, you are the authority.
Yeah.
Especially if you do not have a supervisor who is there for you. Like you are the person who has to say enough. But this is also how you learn. And this is how you become a better scientist. So that's a decision that you have to make, no matter how uncomfortable it is, in order to grow and to say, okay, I am a PhD level scientist right now. Because why? Not because of the things that I know, but because of how am I treating the things that I know.
Yeah, I think that is also a thing about signing up for science is basically signing up for not knowing and signing up for endless questions. There is always going to be more questions to be asked. And drawing the line is like, but we could ask 100 more questions. And yes, we could.
About 100 more things. Like there are many aspects of your research in which you can find at least 1,000 questions to
Probably.
So that's the when you feel that your tree is getting out of control, it's time to the decision tree. It's time to say it's enough. That's probably enough.
Yeah. I think that's really nice and visual advice. Maybe two more things that I wrote down that I would like to ask you. And one is, we touched on it a bit before, if we have a micromanaging supervisor or just a difficult supervisor in any way, how can we go into difficult conversations? Like either just being confronted with it, like, okay, I'm in this situation now and it's uncomfortable, or maybe even planning on it because I feel like, okay, I need to reset my boundaries. I need to get clarity on this. So I'm deliberately going into this difficult conversation. How can I prepare if I get the chance, or how can I react if I didn't get the chance to prepare?
Yeah, I think that a good thing, I think that typically works in those situations is showing empathy. I know that it's like a little bit of a controversial thing because maybe if your supervisor has not been nice to you, the least that you want right now is to feel empathy for that person. But I think you have a much greater chance to succeed if you actually remind them that you are on the same team. Like that's your thing, you are on the same team. So it's not me against you, it's us against reviewer too. Or that's the thing. I think that if you before the conversation even happens, if you remind yourself that you are not actually talking to the enemy, but you are trying to at least convince them that you are on the same team. I think that's like an individual exercise everyone has to do before facing those conversations. Like, what do I even want from that person? Do I want from that person to apologize? Probably it's not going to happen. So you might as well just deal with the injustice that it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So what's the second best thing? Having them on my team. And I think this is the best advice I would give in that situation. It's not easy, especially if, of course, a little bit of a disclaimer, in cases in which we are talking about work things, when you are disagreeing on something, when you are maybe not seeing the direction of your research the same way, and so on. If we are talking about situations of, abuse of any kind, then I would definitely say that you need to go to the people in charge of that and make sure that you are protected in some way. Of course.
Yeah, I feel, on the one side, showing empathy and seeing like, okay, we are both people with our views and our feelings and our everything. We are on the same team. So we are not like, the problem is not between us, but we're both looking at the problem. We're trying to solve it together. And it's the paper or the data or the experiment that we're talking about. We're not talking about the people, you and me, but we're talking about something that is not a person. So kind of both, I think, making it more personal, but also less personal in a way.
Yeah, because it's not about you. Because at the end of the day, it's something that it doesn't have to be about you. It has to be about the research.
Yeah.
And I think that you should use every possible opportunity to redirect the focus from yourself to the research.
Yes.
I think everyone would be much better off by focusing on the research instead of whatever personal issue there might be.
Good, thank you. And then the last thing was talking about writing, because writing, I guess, also plays a very big role in pursuing a PhD. What is your take on the relationship to writing for PhDs?
Yeah, there are, typically when people come to me for coaching, they are like, I hate writing. I just don't know. I don't feel like it. It takes me forever and so on. So what I can say that typically it's not the writing that takes you forever, or it's not the writing thing that you're avoiding. What you're avoiding is deciding what to write about, So that's the thing that I always try to basically bring a little bit of awareness to it, because it's not the writing per se, like typing the words. It's more about how the decision making. So as soon as you become more comfortable with the decision making, this is the thing that is making you comfortable. This is the thing that is making you procrastinate. So I feel that writing is the best tool any PhD can use to safeguard their research for whatever reason, whatever might happen. Your supervisor might, get a new job, or you might change supervisors, or you might feel that there are things that, that are not working with your collaborators or whatever. When you have your work in writing, you always have leverage because you know what you did. You can send it to people. You know how it's done, how long it will take. So I would always say that there is this crucial point of organization in which I want to put my things in writing. It doesn't have to be super complex, like a written thesis. It just has to be your place in which you know what you did, why you did it, how you did it, when, and what's the consequence of it. So it can be very, very simple. There are some people who try like lab journals. There are people who are trying Excel tables, but Notion, whatever works for you, Word document, whatever works for you. But it's a good way to know what you're working on, especially since a PhD, it's a long process and we all forget about the things we did.
Yeah.
Even though you were obsessed with it for 3 months, chances are that in 3 years, you're going to forget that experiment. So it's always, always important to document it. And I know that no one wants to do it because you're so busy and then it's documentation. But take at least like 1 day a week in which you can say Friday at, I don't know, at 3 p.m., from 3 p.m. to 3:30, I'm going to do a little bit of a recap of my week. So just by doing this little exercise, it's already going to give you peace of mind because you will know what was happening that day, that time. And so I would definitely suggest to level up the decision-making game and really stick to it and make sure that you know what you were doing in the past. Because once you have to write your thesis, it's going to become very, very useful.
Yeah. And do you have an example? Like, would you write, I don't know, I'm on Friday, and then I would say, okay, this week I spent 3 hours doing statistics. I did this. This was the result. Like that style, kind of?
Yeah. So what I see that typically works best, of course, everyone has their own preference, and this can be done in a form of a table, in a form of, written sentences. But like what I was trying to do, how I was doing it, and how did it go?
Okay.
Just answer those three questions, and you're already better, doing better than many. So it's just about that. What I was trying to do this week. This week I was trying to filter the data that I received from the collaborator, and I realized there was an error in, I don't know, an experiment. What did I do about it? Well, I contacted those people, and then I suggested a new experiment that is going to look like this and this and this. What was the consequence of that? Yeah, they're going to run another experiment that is going to look at this and this, like this.
Yeah.
And then next week again, and next week again. And this is sort of how you have this compound effect of the work that you did. Because there is another big advantage of writing and of organizing your time and time management that we are not talking about, and that is being awareness and making the things that are not so tangible very tangible. Specifically, I was working in my PhD. I was working mainly. I was doing computational work, so I wasn't doing experiments. I was doing mathematical modeling, and it can all feel kind of abstract. You spend 1 week, and then you fix. What did I do? I fixed 3 bugs in my code. Like it feels that you are not doing anything. And then if you are not getting the results and you are feeling that you are not doing anything, it's very hard to be aware of the things that you've been doing. Keeping track of what you're doing also makes the things tangible, so you can source confidence from there. Because sometimes we feel, oh, but I'm not doing anything, or I am going very slowly. Okay, but are you aware of the things that you are doing? Because sometimes we're just not aware of that. And I feel that that's the biggest advantage of any time task management system, that you're aware and you make the things that are sort of abstract tangible and real.
Yeah.
Both to you and your supervisor, because that when the time comes to meet the supervisor, maybe it's once a week, once every 2 weeks. When they ask you, what have you been up to? You say, okay, this. And you take your notebook, your Excel table or whatever, and you say, look, in the last 3 weeks, I was doing this. It all failed. Okay, it doesn't matter. But at least you know that you have this something to hold on to.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't feel like saying, I think I did nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing came out of it, but it doesn't mean that one didn't do anything. Yeah. That's also something that I hear, that like someone tells me, this week I didn't work on my thesis at all. But then it turns out that they worked on statistics that will be part of a paper that will go into their thesis. And then I'm like, no, you did work on your thesis. It might not feel like it because you didn't open your thesis document, but you worked on things that will ultimately go into it. And I'm like, that's true. And it's these small things that I might seem obvious, but they're not that obvious. And they weren't that obvious to me from the beginning.
Of course.
Yeah.
You have this feeling like I'm working. I could not be working more, and yet I could not be achieving less. So it's like,
really
is this possible? Is this possible? Like it's physically impossible to work more, and yet I'm not. I seem stuck. Despite me working. But I feel that the good way of getting unstuck is exactly being aware of the things that you're doing. That's the first thing.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Is there any other advice that you would like to give to a PhD? Advice that you feel that has helped someone?
I feel that the advice that we were discussing previously, like embrace that you are not. This is not a competition. You're not supposed to be the best of the class.
Yeah.
You are supposed to be exactly where you are, in the despair of not knowing.
Yeah.
And sometimes you should just sit with the not knowing until it feels less uncomfortable. So it will feel more comfortable, and then you're going to start from there. It might seem like academia is a competition, but from my experience, no one cares.
Yeah, getting comfortable in the discomfort and
Yeah.
seeing it more as I don't know, as an experiment,
As
as
a
an
challenge.
experience,
Yeah.
and not like you against me, and really on a micro level, because there's so many researchers out there. But it's so easy to focus on that PhD that is maybe 2 months ahead in the same lab, and like, no, this is not worth anyone's energy.
Totally.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. That was really
Thank
nice,
you.
Alda, for your time and for your heartfelt advice. It was really inspiring to hear what you were sharing.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and that there is something that you want to try, that there is something that you're like, okay, I think this will help me get a better hold, a better grasp of the work that I'm doing and the relationship that I'm having with my PI. If you want to connect with Alda, learn more about her work, or maybe work with her closely, then follow the link in the show notes, and you can find her on LinkedIn. And I'm sure that she's happy to talk to you. Share this episode with someone who you feel like they need to listen to this. They have difficulties with their supervisor. Follow the show. That will help me, reach more people and to bring out further episodes. Then, before I'm releasing you into your PhD every day, there's one more thing that I'd like to share. In the last couple of years, I have been thinking about how I can help you best and what are the main areas that I feel like many PhDs struggle with and could have a lighter take on. And the first one is being stressed and working a lot. That is for many PhDs needing an extension or working weekends and just feeling like generally the workload is too much. Then the second one, and that is basically what we talked about today, is that many supervisors are research leaders and they are project leaders, but they're not necessarily people leaders, which leaves many PhDs having to lead themselves, and that is very challenging. And the third one, which is kind of a result of the first two, is that I see and hear and feel that many PhDs actually work below their potential, like below their intellectual capacity. So while they're working beyond their capacity when it comes to workload, they're still below their potential when it comes to their intellect, their smartness, their ideas, their creativity. And that's sad. And I want to change that, because if we want to bring forward the next generation of world-class scientists, then I think we really want to tap into our potential. And to help you with that and to, getting you to explore more of your potential and decreasing your stress level, I developed a course in which I combine my 3 favorite areas: productivity science, mindfulness, and mindset work. And the result is a 45 weeks course in a book, because I feel you can benefit from some off-screen time. So this is deliberately a book course in which you can write, in which you can draw, in which you can scribble. And every week you will find inspiration, knowledge, techniques that you can try during the week. There's exercises that help you explore each topic, and then gradually these topics build up on each other. And on the other side and along the way, you can feel like, this feels lighter. I have more control. I feel more confident. I feel stronger. I feel like I'm getting closer to my potential. If you pre-order the book and have some patience with the shipping, because that will only start end of August, then you will benefit from some extras and from some specials. All of those you can find when you follow the link in the show notes. So make sure that you pre-order, and then thanks in advance. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. You are doing great. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. Alda and I are cheering for you very much. You got this. And then I'm looking forward to welcoming you here again for the next episode. Take care and goodbye. Yours, Miriam.